an organization would always want to make more money, right? So that's kind of why we exist. That's the bottom line. We want to create shareholder value. We want to give returns to our shareholders, better returns. Now, if you look at what drives that, or what are the drivers to that, yes, I could make more margin, or are there other drivers of creating more value? And actually, working capital is one of the biggest drivers. So if you take very simplistically, like I have got a product, my annual sales is X, and I make a Y% margin with a working capital of Z, let's say, and that generates a shareholder return, right, on working capital. Now, if I have to improve the shareholder return on the capital that is invested, working capital is actually a fantastic driver, and it's kind of what I call as the path of least resistance, because you can't possibly take 20% out of your costs just like that to improve your margins. You also can't increase your sales by 25% to give a higher return on returns to the shareholders. But what you definitely can do, and probably through careful structure, you could actually reduce your working capital by 20%, and that actually translates to between 20 and 25% increase in returns to your shareholders, depending on, of course, which spectrum you operate in as a company. So to me, that's kind of a very easy way for finance or for an organization to drive shareholder value. So the best way to do it is, where in the spectrum in working capital, based on the industry that you are in, where in the spectrum are you, right? How optimized are you? So that's almost the very first point, right? If you're already optimized in working capital, obviously there's little you can do, and you go into the next level, which is literally, driving down your cost or trying to push revenue. But considering that you're not yet optimized, and I'm sure there's opportunity to optimize your working capital, that's the very first port of call, right? Because so take any example of a product-based industry, right? In a product-based industry, let's say if it's dealing with a lot of metal content, there's a lot of material content itself in the product. You can't reduce the amount of quantity of material that you're buying from your suppliers that goes into the product. So that you have almost no opportunity to drive down costs in there, because the product or the price of the product is driven by, let's say, the London Metal Exchange steel prices. You can't drive that down, can you? But if you want to still generate better returns, where do you find the money, right? You can reduce your cost, less headcount, but you can improve your operations, automate your operations, but that requires a lot of capital investment, right, to be able to do that. Whereas through a much more limited capital investment, and sometimes almost no capital investment, but just by addressing your business process or bringing in limited innovation to your business process, limited automation to your business process, you can actually reduce your working capital. Let's say a company that has got $100 million of inventory, right? You can, through careful structuring the process, reduce that to 90 million. Now that's a 10% reduction. And mind you, that can actually drive 10 to 12% improvement on your total return to shareholders. Now, I've got to be careful here. I'm not just talking about improvement in margins. I'm talking about, if I have got $100 invested in the business, how much return or how much increase in return does that drive because of driving my working capital down? So it's kind of a no-brainer that working capital should be the very first and foremost thing that you would want to attack if you want to drive higher shareholder value. The first 2 points that you made in terms of cash flow and profitability, they're kind of intertwined, right? And actually working capital drives both. It releases cash, and with that cash, because you're releasing cash, obviously if your EBIT amount, even if it's constant, with reduced working capital, your total capital employed reduces. So because your denominator reduces, your value to your shareholders automatically increases. And the beauty is, with this release of cash, that you now have, you can reinvest in the business. So it's almost, imagine you're not taking money out of your EBIT, you can still fund your shareholders' dividends and all, but you're basically taking out working capital to reinvest in the business, maybe for capacity, maybe for innovation, maybe for new product introduction, it may be whatever. And you're generating additional sales using that capital. So it's kind of a brilliant way of driving your working capital down, reinvesting in the business, and generating capacity and capability to drive further EBIT.